Mhm.
All right. We are back for another Friday night chat, relationship conversations. As you have noticed, um, this one is entitled The Origin of Relationships. And so I have again my co-host, uh, this my talking buddy. We become talking buddies. So we chatting
Talking
it up.
buddies.
We
I
talking
love
buddies,
it.
chatting up buddies. Mr. Jamal Bazil, how you doing tonight, sir?
Doing well. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing on this fine Friday night?
Yes, yes, yes. So we are, I know where I am. It's a little rainy and stuff, so I'm pretty sure people are in trying to stay dry. So hey, come on, chime on in. Let me get over here so I can see what's going on. And we want you guys to, number one, we want you to share. Um, please share this with your friends, text it to them, share it on Facebook, share it on your social media platforms, join the conversation. Listen, it's going to be a good one tonight. And you definitely want to make sure that you are chimed in. Um, we are going to jump into it here in just a minute, trying to get it here where I can definitely see this chat so we can see what's going on. So as you come in, um, let us know, say hello to us, and then we want you to share this. Of course, I'm going to start out with a few um, announcements and talk about a couple of things just to give people a moment to join us tonight and get engaged. Of course, as you know, we are ramping up for the Pen to Paper tour, and Mr. Jamal is also a part. He's a part of one of the teams. And
Yes.
hey, Tiff, we see you coming in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good to see you tonight. Share, share, share. So yeah, we're
Hey,
ramping
Tiffany.
up for the Pen to Paper tour. And so our first stop, of course, is in Atlanta, Georgia, April 27th. And it's going to be the launching of the tour. We have a 10 city tour. We have 8 confirmed cities. DC is on board. We have a few more cities that are confirming, but I'm just going to give you the rundown right now and then give you some information on how you can learn more about pen to paper. Of course, pen to paper is an extension of what I do as a consulting and a clarity coach, and I enjoy it. It's fun and it's also educational and impactful to help people go to the next level. And it's impacting people and helping them to increase in their influence, their impact, and their income. And so that is the heart of us helping people to really get clarity about their vision. We're kicking it off April 27 in Atlanta, Georgia. The links are hot and live at bridgetmoody.com/tour. All of the cities that are confirmed there and that are available for registration, you can register right now. So you'll want to go get registered. So Atlanta's up April 27th, and May 4th, we go to Hampton Roads, Virginia, and Baltimore area. If you're in the
That's
Baltimore
my
area,
home.
DC area, join us in Hampton Roads May 4th. And then from there, we head to Las Vegas, Nevada. This is going to be the empowerment conference that we're enveloping into the tour. And this is one that we're going to be pouring into foster kids, youth, and young adult. So listen, we want you to help us make that a big, big conference there in Las Vegas. Anybody can come, but we're primarily focusing on the youth, the teens, and the foster um, teens in that area and those agencies who have teens and youth that need what we are sharing. Um, then we move from there to San Bernardino, California, August 3rd, August 10th. We're in Chicago, Illinois. And then we hit Portland, Oregon on September 7th. Houston, Texas is September 21st. And then we will end in the nation's capital in DC on October 5th as
Oh,
it currently stands. So we are literally panning the country.
the
And then the
nation's capital.
conference, yes, the the
Wow.
yeah. So the conference will culminate in Dallas, Texas, my hometown, November 1st and 2nd, and that's going to be a 2-day full 2-day conference, and it's going to be absolutely electrifying. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be life changing. You can get registered for any of those things at bridgetmoody.com/tour for the tour and /events for the conference. Also, there is an amazing special rate for hotel accommodations at the host hotel. which is the La Meridian Dallas Galleria. And those rates are outstanding at $129 per night. Is an amazing property. And so you don't want to miss out on these amazing rates. Those are pen to paper rates only. And so you definitely want to go to the website, get registered while the early bird registrations are available for all of these locations. So that's what we got going on. We want to here again invite you to engage in this conversation tonight. So we're going to piggyback off of Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. We had Shamina Holman on Tuesday night, Jamal, and she had an amazing testimony, and she's written a book called Unearth, Uncovering and Rediscovering. And so the premise of her book is, and we talked about from trauma to triumph. And so the premise of her story is about the abuse and the trauma that she experienced in childhood. And, you know, she talks about the things she went through being a teen mom, marrying early in life, being divorced early in life. And then, of course, on the backside of this, she's now an author, a published author. And she is also a nurse practitioner. But what stood out to me in that conversation, and I thought we would, you know, kind of lift this and pick this up tonight, is how we oftentimes base our relationships based on the trauma that we have had and the things that we've experienced in our life. And it becomes a culture for which we make decisions about our relationships, what we tolerate, what we endure, what we allow to be okay, because one of her chapters was looking for love in all the wrong places. So I thought it was so befitting, you know, to our Friday night chat conversations about relationships, because here again, we're just having relationship conversations, right? And it just made me think about how often we pick relationships based on either father figures or the lack thereof, or the abuse of, it could sometimes also be mothers, how we don't know how to operate as women, as nurturers, because we didn't have that culture, we didn't have that upbringing. So there are a lot of different pieces and parts and scenarios that could come into play when we think about how we shape our minds to establish relationships. You know, how we pick men, how we pick women, what we endure, what, you know. So I wanted to kind of kick it off from that perspective and just kind of give you a backdrop and kind of get your perspective on your thoughts about that.
So childhood trauma, and it's not just trauma, just childhood in general, right? You're a sponge as a kid. So you develop much of your paradigm, much of your core beliefs as a kid. And so it affects everything. It affects how you see, definitely affects the lens that you look through. So I think about, of course, think about my book, and I want to say the second section of the book kind of taps into that a little bit, right? So and it doesn't always have to necessarily be bad. So I can give, the first thing that popped in my head is my sister, right? So my sister, and we had some rough times growing up too, but my sister is the only girl of 5 boys, right? And so there's some behaviors that my sister has learned. Like my sister, and I pray she watches this, is the most spoiled individual on the planet. If you think you're a princess, my sister is the queen of princesses, right? She had 5 brothers, and we did everything for her. Like, she didn't know how to use a doorknob. She didn't know how the trash got out of the kitchen into the dumps. Like, my sister never had to do that. And so there's an expectation in her mind, right? When she interacts with men, this is the standard. And so, and I think in one of our previous conversations, Tiffany kind of had a comment about that with her dad. Like, you know, she's overbearing, she demands too much. And it's like, these are my expectations because these are the parameters that was set for me. This is the example that I saw.
Absolutely.
Now the same thing can be said, because those examples can also be negative, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Abuse can be normal. Like, some people are in relationships and it's like, man, why do you always yell at me? Well, that's how that's normal. Like, communication is yelling. If I'm not yelling, then I don't care. And I've literally had people say that, like
Yeah, yeah,
in real life. And that's their normal. And you're sitting there like, yo, how are you functioning like that?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But that's
yeah.
all they know. If you
That's
don't
all
yell
they
at
know.
them, so like an example of that would be like somebody breaks up with you, right? Like
Yeah.
it's over. We're done.
Yeah.
And because this, I've done this in real life. Okay, cool. And then they get mad. Like, why are you not mad? What am I gonna do? Like, I can't make you want to be with me. Like, you know what
So
I'm
here's
saying?
the
Like,
thing. So, normally the response is, well, you're supposed to fight for it. And da, 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 da. But if you don't, you know,
ain't no fighting. Like, you just said you done. All
that
right, bro.
now that is such an oxymoron to me because that happens a lot. And so it's like,
I'm
okay,
telling you.
that's
Listen,
what you want to do. I don't list.
so
Everybody different.
and it's wild because it's like you don't care. Obviously, you never cared. And it's like, if I didn't care, I wouldn't have been with you for this time. You know what I mean? And it's like,
But it's a ploy and it goes back. Oh my God, this was such a profound statement, simple but profound. Abuse can be the norm, spoil can be the norm, whatever could be that person's norm. And so oftentimes it's a ploy to try to determine if, because to them, the way you care, it doesn't say that you care. So
right.
this is a ploy to try to see if you're going to fight for them, if you're going to, don't do that, don't go, I really love
Eh,
you, da, 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 because there's something they need to hear, right? There's a norm that they're looking for that's not there, not realizing that you really
mm.
have what you need or you have more than you desire.
Yes.
You just don't know it. And so you haven't tapped into it. Oh, that's good right there.
I'm gonna tell you what.
That's good
Listen,
right there.
for those of y'all out there that's ploying, you can ploy or ploy gonna leave you alone. Because like,
but
you
this but
know,
this a
it
real though.
it is really, it's a mentality. I've seen it quite a bit. Man, this like conversation shift, but not really. So I went again, the barbershop, right? I remember back in the day when going to the barbershop,
Mm-hmm.
you receive some wisdom, you know. There was always that they're playing chess or something, you know, they're talking. So
Mm-hmm.
I recently visited the barbershop because you know I try not to embarrass my family. You know, went in, you know, sit and talking. And again, these men are way older than I am, right? Have children, daughters, sons,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we were having this conversation, and they started talking about the guy. My barber was kind of like, "Hey, listen in, right?" So the guy started the
Uh-huh.
conversation off like this. He was like, "Hey, Jay, don't
Mm-hmm.
get offended by what I'm about to say, right?"
Oh, you already
So
know.
I already knew where we were about to go, right?
You
And he
already
was
knew what's
like,
gonna happen.
you know how the Bible talks about you know, one woman and one man and a wife, like who who wrote the Bible? A bunch of men, right? And so there's always a burning urge in me to go into the apologetics, but I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I'm in a barbershop, relax,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I let him get it out, right? And he was like, I mean, look at the animals. They live in peace. You know, you got one lion and you got a bunch of lionesses. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
actually, sometimes you have more than one male, but whatever. So I let him get it. He
Yeah.
was
So
like,
you knew where he was going.
right. He's like, I'm not trying to offend your religion or anything, but what do you have to say about that? I was like, first of all, I don't have a religion, sir. I have a relationship. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's my Bible thumb. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I hear you. I mean, that sounds good, right? I was like, that
Mm-hmm.
sounds great. The only problem with that is lions aren't conscious. They can't think. They live off of just straight. This is how they're wired. They can't reason. They can't change their mind. They see an antelope. They go after the antelope.
Yeah.
So I said, and then I went like, you want to be like lions? Well, let's say we are lions, right? You got four girls, right? You got four lionesses around you. That's your
Right.
pride,
Yeah.
right? So what happens if a bigger lion comes beats you down, takes your
Yeah.
pride, and kills your cubs. That's how we
Right.
gonna live? Like, that's what you
Right.
want. That's what you're telling me. And I said, by the way, you complaining about the one girl you have right now. Put four of them together. Bro, you gonna lose. You gonna want
Right.
to kill
And you
yourself.
can't handle the one. And then you're gonna talk
You
about trying to
want
have
fuck?
multiple.
Come on, man. You can keep that. I'm
But
gonna
that
deal with
but
this
that com-
one.
but to the point, that comes from something. That comes
Yes.
from somewhere.
And he
There's a
talked about it.
culture. Yes.
So
So
this
let us
this
hear
guy in
about it.
particular is like, I mean, he's like 60 something years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so what it was, and we talked about it because I know, great guy, loving guy. His entire life, he's been a giver.
Mm-hmm.
So he meets, he told me, I date all these girls, I treat them like queens, and then they just snap on me. Like they just take from me and take from me and take from me and take from me. So basically, he's been hurt so many times and tricked into pregnancies and all this type of stuff. And I'm sitting there listening to him like, your problem ain't God. Your problem is people,
Yeah. Yeah. Because you
right?
gotta analyze these situations and relationships. Because you just doing women. You ain't having relationships. And
So,
you
so,
obviously are not assessing the
so
types
then
of people that you're dealing with.
he said this, yeah, because the kid thing, right? He was like, you know, Jamal, I applaud you because you ain't had no kids. I was like, yeah, it's called self-control. So he was like, but for me, these women told me they were on birth control and I believed them. Why wouldn't I believe them? I was like, what that got to do with you putting something on you? Like, you think all these maniacal women are just out here
Because
trying to
it's
get pregnant?
because it's easier. It's
But
easier just not to. It's easy to believe,
to
okay.
it's easier to transfer responsibility to everybody but me,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
right?
It's
And
easy to let
because
her be responsible for it.
you're a good guy, and I mean, according to him, they put him through the wire to get that child support and money and all this
Oh, I'm
stuff, right?
sure. I'm
So
sure.
then now your heart is hardened to all women,
Right.
but all women don't roll like that.
And then
Maybe
when you meet one in your season, your latter season of life, when you meet a woman who is trying to be loving and nurturing and caring and giving, you
you
treat her
skeptical.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, and yeah, you treat her like,
I
and so
can't
then,
trust you.
yeah, and then she moves on because it's like, I don't have time for this, you
No.
know. So it's the scenario that we see every day, right? But we have to always go back, and we talked about this time and time again, how it's so important to have the conversations. It's so
Right.
important to communicate. You cannot go into these conversations with your eyes only on the prize and the hips and fingertips and the 6'2" and the muscles. I'm just saying the muscle man, all of
Yeah.
that. Because at the end of the day, that's not what's essential in this season. What is important is the fact that you understand who you're talking to, who you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, what's their capacity. Because at the end of the day, there is always a root to every tree. So I don't
Yes,
care
ma'am.
how tall it stands, there's a root somewhere. And that root could be healthy or unhealthy, right? Um, it could be
Mm.
brittle on the inside, it looks fine on the outside. So, or it could be a strong tree. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that conversation, you don't know what you're
What
really
you
dealing with.
signing
What are
up
you,
for? Yeah.
yeah, what are the preferences?
So
What you like? Why do you like that? Where did you get that from? Well, what made you think that? All of these questions, because it's those little things that you need to pay attention to. That's why I say we can't just go in here talking about, gifts and restaurants and all this kind of stuff. Pay attention to what the individual does,
so
man or woman.
yes. I'm a big proponent of, at some point you gotta make a decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a past. And Miss Moody, your past isn't worse than my past, mine isn't worse. God gives us what we can handle, right? Because
Absolutely.
I can't deal with some of the stuff you've dealt with. Like, I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to function. So God only gives us what we can handle, right? And
Absolutely.
so, but at some point, when your brain starts shooting neurons quick enough, you
Mm-hmm.
hit a part in the road where it's like, what am I gonna do now? Am I
Mm-hmm.
gonna repeat what I saw,
Mhm.
because I saw the effects, or am I gonna strive to do different? Don't mean get it perfect, but I'm gonna
Right.
strive to do different. So when
Yeah.
people say, everybody's different, but at some point when people's like, well, this is all I've been through and da 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 da, and I'm like, I don't look like what I've been through.
Right.
Doesn't mean I didn't been through something. I learned from it though. That's the
Mhm.
difference.
Right.
Like we complain about, oh, these guys ain't nothing and all guys are the same. All guys are the same if you fishing from the same pool all day.
That's right. That's true.
And if you
Absolutely.
using the same bait,
Mhm.
because we like to blame it on other people, but what are you putting off? What are you attracting? Like
Yep.
what bait are
Absolutely.
you using? Sometimes you got to change what you doing to
Absolutely.
attract a different prize. That's
If you want different, you got to do something different. So,
100%.
that definition of insanity, holds true. You cannot continue to do the same thing expecting a different result. And so, if we're not going to take the opportunity to challenge ourselves to be different, meaning we approach things different, we take the opportunity, well, this is just how I am, da 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 da. Da. Okay, well,
Okay.
just how you am is going to keep you how you are,
And you
until you decide you're going to do something different. And so that's on both sides of the fence. And so it's
stuck in
never
a
to
cycle.
me, right. It's never one side or the other because there's always a action and a corresponding reaction.
Right. So
Always.
now the interesting thing about this, Miss Moody, is if for people that do not put forth the effort to be different, they actually create versions of themselves
Mm-hmm.
over and over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you talk this way, a certain way around your kids about women or men, they start internalizing this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then they start
Mm-hmm.
viewing them a certain way. They start behaving a certain way, and it just
Mm-hmm.
perpetuates itself over and over and over. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like for me, it's the decision, and then it's who am I around,
Mm-hmm.
right? Again, community, 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 community. Like your community shapes a lot, right?
Absolutely. Who's in your ear, right?
What PD says all the time, nobody talks to you more than you,
That's right.
right? And followed by that is who are you allowing to speak to you? And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, the thing that's speaking to us is a bunch of crap, and we're wondering why did I just do that? Like I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know why I just did that, because it's subconsciously
Mm-hmm.
written in your heart, because the music you listen to, the whatever you watch, the people you're around continually, the
Absolutely.
conversations you're having, like this stuff is real, and it's a constant battle every day.
And then
Constant.
the ear gates, we're not protecting the ear gates. That goes with the piece about, who we're allowing, to be in our ear. What are we listening to? Whose advice are we taking? And who are we comparing ourselves to?
Mhm. Comparison.
Um, yeah, because comparison kills. Because at the end of the day, yeah, somebody may be with somebody 10 years, but you don't know what they do stay. If they just
Right.
hanging there because they ain't got nowhere else to go, you know, this is
Right.
it because they don't want to have to take care of themselves.
And
Or
mm, we
I
have
mean,
which one because I'm not up on this, but which one is the award for best actor? Is it Oscars? Is that Oscars?
I wanna say you got Oscar. I think it is Oscar.
Because I
Tiff
don't.
in the chat. Tiff probably know because I don't even watch none of them award shows
Right.
anymore. They
So
got they got daytime and then they got some all these other shows. But
yeah,
I
it's a
think
bunch of
it's
stuff.
I think the Oscars is the top one or something.
So you a lot of times we look at people in relationships and they put on a great show.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? They put on a great show, but their lives be terrible. And
Yep.
sometimes the reality of it is one person in the relationship does honestly believe that they're all good. And
Yep.
the other person is like, I'm trapped.
Mm-hmm.
And no, they never talk about, I think personally, like me, whenever the good Lord, opens my eyes to see that one, I'm dating, I get married, we gonna call it regular check-ins. Like, how am I doing?
Yeah.
How am
And
I doing? Like,
that's good because you need to know that
progress
because
report.
yeah,
Like,
because you may think you at a 9,
yeah,
and she like about a 3.
yeah, like, and I'm 3. Like, that's failing. Like, okay, can I get some
I'm
notes?
one step
I
from
need
being
a
put out. What's happening?
man, but we gotta have those conversations,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. It's necessary.
And
That's just like regular medical checkups. You got to have these regular relationship checkups. You got to talk about stuff.
and so I have this thing. I don't even know if I put that in the book, but never get comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The minute you get comfortable, for like this, okay. For those of you who don't know me, sometimes I go to extremes to prove a point, right? Like, if you always in a bonnet at home, nah, we're gonna have a problem. Look, I need the hair done, I need the nails done, I need all that for me too, right? We get
At
dolled up for everybody else when we going out. No, I
the
want to come
house.
home one day.
At the house.
I want to come home one day, and that all you got all them curls and all that flying all around. Be like, girl, we can't have no more babies. You better behave yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-uh.
you gotta put
That's
forth
right
an
though.
effort for that
You
person as
do.
well, and
You
it's
do.
it's
And
it's
you gotta know that. You gotta pay attention to your mate on both sides to know what the needs are.
yeah, I feel like we do more for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we talked about this either offline or on here or whatever. Like, oftentimes, like, men are trying to impress other men and women are trying to impress
True.
other women.
True. True. True.
And
True.
my thing is like, I don't care about these dudes. You can't do nothing for me. I'm looking for my
Mm.
winter blanket. Like, so I'm trying to impress them.
Not the
You know what
winter
I'm saying?
blanket.
I'm looking for my winter blanket. But we take so much effort. I've heard women tell me literally like women dress for other women. And I'm like scratching my head like, but I don't understand. I don't understand that. I'm not following. I'm not tracking that. It's
Here again, attention, and it's all about the culture.
yeah,
Just how will
culture is a big
you
piece.
culture is I mean, it's a huge piece.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, so many of us are taught to do a certain thing. We're taught to be a certain way. We're taught. It's just like when there are situations. I haven't gotten this, and I never understand it. If a man cheats with a woman, she didn't cheat. She didn't just come pull him out of somewhere. So why are you acting a fool with this woman? You need to be talking to this man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That has been the stupidest thing. I've never in my life understood that. If I'm gonna talk to somebody and have a fit with somebody, it's gonna be the man. It's gonna be the husband or the boyfriend or whoever, the fiance or whoever. But why am I gonna go and have? I mean, because she couldn't do nothing
That's
by herself.
that's allowable for us though. We are allowed to sow our royal oats while y'all must stay legs crossed and modest with dresses down to your ankles. It's
You want a fit? I give you one, but
it's
I'm
a
gonna give
double
him the fit.
standard. Right.
I'm gonna give him the fit. You know.
Uppercut. But that's one of like that's how we're functioning. And it's like you get all this praise for being a man that steps out on his wife. And dudes are like admitting that joint. Like it's okay. And now what's crazy is now women are like, well, as long as he know where his home is, obviously he don't, because he's sleeping with somebody else. But it's become acceptable.
But now, when the tables are turned,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and a woman decides she gonna step, oh, you gonna do me like that, da 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 da, because it has become substandard
So
that it's okay for the man to do it. But for the woman, it is unheard of. You a whole, all of this.
So let's go back to the lioness and the lion.
Okay. Let's talk about it. Y'all
Is
quiet tonight in this chat. Either we talking
it's
good or we stepping on toes, we doing something. Or y'all dozing.
so one of the two.
One of the two.
It's interesting to me because my brain, of course, was analyzing this concept that this guy was painting up, right? And so
Right.
I thought about it, and that we didn't get a chance to really, I didn't get a chance to expound because other people started chiming in, and
Right.
the foolery was overwhelming. So I just got quiet.
Oh my goodness. Not
Let
the
me get
foolery.
my right. So yeah, man, like I should be able to step out. One guy said this, he said a woman is like what do you say? It's like a meal, right? You don't want to keep eating the same meal every day. You want to try something different every once in a while. I was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we
Oh
talking
my
about?
God.
And
Oh
so,
my
but then I thought about that.
God.
I would say the majority of men let that woman step out and sleep with another man or even kiss another man. We ready to kill that man,
Mhm.
right? Because we are so jealous.
Yep.
We are so very jealous. And I'm like, wait a second. If she
Mhm.
can't step out, why is it okay for you to step out?
Mhm.
And even when people say like, oh, we in a open relationship,
Yeah, okay, open.
100% of the time, somebody
That's
gonna get
just
caught up
that's
in their
just
feelings.
that's just open legs. That ain't no open
Yeah.
relationship. That's just
Yeah, because
open legs.
somebody emotionally is more connected, and it could be man or woman,
Absolutely.
and then they get
Absolutely.
pissed off. And it's like we are not wired that way. We
Mm-mm.
just not wired that way, right? And so in the book, I don't know if I want to read it because it's about a half a page, but I talk about like our great grandparents, like my
Mm-hmm.
generation, our great grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was real old school. Samira, Samira says it's good conversation. So thanks,
Okay.
Samira.
She said
But
we
like,
listening and agreeing. Okay.
so like the old school, right? I hear the stories and I've talked to older people, and it was like, they married, they have kids, husband go to work, husband
Mm-hmm.
bring home food, lights are
Mm-hmm.
on, good
Mm-hmm.
times, right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of those cases, these guys had other women and other families,
But
and it
here,
was
here was the
okay.
definition. Here was the underlying definition. That mean I love you. If I'm paying the bills,
Yep.
you ain't got to work,
Yep.
you know,
Hmm.
you can buy what you want, all this kind of stuff. Then that means you keep your mouth closed because I'm handling it. I'm paying the cost to be the boss. And that
Hmm.
was the framework. That was the framework. And that's how young men were taught.
Yep.
That was
And
the old school. And
young
yeah,
women were
and
taught that's the life.
that's the life. And you
So
look, if he taking care of things, you stay there, you do whatever you handle your business
so
at the
you
house.
got you cook, you clean, or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
your clothes and your material things are going up, but your self-esteem and your value is going
Absolutely.
down.
Absolutely. And the
So
value of who you are has no
dropping,
has no
diminishing.
the self-worth is continuing to diminish and it continues to decline. And so when you get to a point that there is an opportunity for you to have uh, a voice or to do something on another level, you so intimidated and you so
Yep.
fearful because you don't know who you are. That's all been stripped away based on a culture and how it was defined to you. So you don't even know that you're greatness. You don't know that you have the ability to be a business owner. You don't know that you have the ability to be a VP or a CEO because you
And
have been
this,
put incarcerated in this box. This mental incarceration has gone on. You've been locked up mentally,
I'm
for
locked
all of this
up.
time. But it's a true thing, and there are areas and there are people and there are situations for which that still exists today.
Yes. It's not
It's
as
not as prevalent.
obstreperous, right? It's
Yes.
not as obstreperous. It's not out there in the open, but it's happening. And
It
so,
is.
but what's interesting now, because normally in the olden days, it would be from the direction of the man kind of controlling, but it's also, you're seeing it the other way too. You have so many men that are confined. You know how many men have visions and dreams and passions that they just laid aside?
Mhm.
And so now they're struggling in their relationship, trying to lead their family. They're on edge all the time. And the wife is trying to figure out why, the girlfriend's the kids are trying to figure out why, because you just stopped, right? Because once again, this esteem thing, right? Either wife is talking down to, emasculating, or you're comparing yourself to your wife who's further along in her career, and you not even, you winning too, but you don't realize it
Yeah.
because you're comparing,
Yeah.
you're in conflict with your wife because you feel like you should be the one,
Yeah.
and now you just stop doing everything. And
Thusly
so
is why the vision of a man is so important, because he is
100%.
the foundation. And so that's why I am so intentional with pen to paper and getting as many men to be a part of this tour as possible, because it's so important that we understand holistically who we are, where our families, that almost doesn't exist, right?
Right.
You have people who are yearning for it, but it's so difficult to find because it's been so dismantled, right? And so when a man understands his vision and what it is that he's purposed to do, then a woman can find her vision and her place in the life of that man, especially if they're coming together as one, or if there's a pursuing of a woman to be a part of your life. Then he better takes hold of legacy, right? But when there's no vision, there's no legacy. And so
There
it
can't
all
be.
crumbles. It all crumbles, and it crumbles from right here. And it crumbles from right here.
Mhm.
Because once we become real confident about who we are, man or woman, once we get that clarity, rather, once we get really clear about who we are as a person, what our purpose is, why are we here? Why did God allow me to be born? There was a reason why. What are
Yep.
my innate qualities? What are my innate abilities, right? And when you get clear about that, real clear about that, you become confident, not
Yep.
arrogant, but confident. And once you get
Absolutely.
confident, you can clearly communicate to a woman, a man, or anyone else what it is that your vision is for life and who
Right.
you are. That makes
And
a
that,
difference even in the conversation.
and it will make you more attractive, right? A lot of
Absolutely.
times, so
Absolutely.
I was thinking on this today, and I was thinking about writing on it, but I got lazy. So a lot of times people say they lose that attraction sometimes in their marriage. And I think it's because in some cases the man has lost his vision or his drive or his passion to
Mm-hmm.
pursue his vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I will say this 100% of the time. As a man or as a woman, if you are pursuing your purpose and walking in your purpose, man, you are so magnetic. It's
Yes,
crazy. Like you
absolutely.
gotta beat people off you with a stick
Mm-hmm.
type of thing.
You draw
Because
people automatically without even
100%,
trying. Yes,
because we talked
absolutely.
about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My purpose is mine, but my vision I can't do by myself. So I'm gonna automatically
Absolutely.
draw other people that are gonna help me
Yes,
fulfill this bigger picture.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and
Absolutely.
now I'm not talking about your partner at the firm.
Mm-hmm.
If your wife ain't attracted to you, I would say the first thing you need to look at is, whoa, am I in purpose right now? Am I
Mm-hmm.
following the vision I laid out?
Absolutely.
Because that's what really grabs y'all in the first place. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this man about something.
Mm-hmm.
This man, he's got a plan. I align with his plan,
Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. And that self-identity is important. Another thing I was talking about on another platform, and I was just kind of talking about the whole pen to paper piece. But I was talking about a book that I wrote called Gift Aborted, and how we oftentimes, the gift, and it's called Gift Aborted, the gift is carried, but purpose is never born. And the reason why that happens is because we're so busy looking at what someone else is doing and what someone else is carrying, that we continue to keep aborting what it is that we have, because we don't nurture it, we don't feed it. It's just like a woman carrying a baby in that first trimester. You got to have vitamins, you got to have the nurturement, you got to have the proper nutrient, because that baby's pulling so much from you. You have to
Mhm.
prepare your body to carry that other person, right? Because that person is a small person growing in you,
Mhm.
but it needs the same things that you have. So that means you
Right.
got to double down and make sure that you're properly structuring your body so that you can carry that baby, right? And if you don't do that, you abort. It's the same thing from
Yeah.
an intelligence perspective. If we don't feel our wills, if we don't find out who we are, if we don't have, clarity about our life, if we don't have self-identity, all of these things, we don't know who we are. And so we keep trying to do something that we see others people doing, and we keep miscarrying, we keep misfiring, we keep miscarrying, and we keep misfiring because we're not taking the time to make sure that we're good, that we are structured for the thing that God gave us to do and the person He gave us to be. And so while this other person is continuing to produce and be
Mhm.
productive and continue to get pregnant, spiritually, and continuing to get pregnant from an intellectual perspective, we continue to abort.
And we
And we
get
don't,
frustrated and
over and over
frustrated.
and over again. And rather than stopping and taking the time to nurture ourselves and fill our wells and find out who we are, you may need to go talk to somebody, that's, a senior person in your family to find out who was my dad like, or who was my mom like, or why did this occur? Why did that occur? Get some answers, because at the end of the day, if you don't address it, you will continue to repeat this cycle over and over and over again, and you'll never be productive. And so,
Sometimes, yeah, oof,
mhm,
that's powerful. Sometimes the best move you can make is to stop.
yeah,
Just stop and assess, okay, where am I? Why do I feel like this? I
pump the
can tell
brakes.
you over the last couple of days, matter of fact, right before this, I talked to my peoples and I'm like, I'm feeling a little flustered, a little frustrated about some things. So I know I got to stop, right?
Mhm,
I got to stop doing all this stuff because I got to figure out, okay, why is there this uneasiness? Why is there kind of this floating, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, a lot of times we get so intoxicated with doing and we
Mhm,
make doing synonymous to successful and moving forward. Sometimes the best thing you can do is sit down and shut up.
mhm. Or we're so busy doing that we're not being.
Yeah.
Because what's wrong with just being who you are, right?
Enjoying where you are right now.
It's not wrong with that. And embrace that. So many times, and I mean, client after client after client come to me with all of these great aspirations and 25 things they want to do. And I'm like, but is that who you are? Do you have the capacity to even do that? Because oftentimes we're so busy trying to do what someone else is doing rather
Mhm.
than being who we are. We miss it all together. And that's the easiest thing for you to do is be you.
Mhm.
Just be. Being is better than doing all day long. And so the
Mm.
things start to, the things start to come naturally when we just be who we are created to be. And so
And
oftentimes we run away from it.
so part of that too, right? The whole being part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes sometimes being who you are is so countercultural, like it almost makes you seem weird, right? So
Mm-hmm.
my example of this, I was at work. This was earlier this month, talking to one of my mentors, and he was like, "I heard this job opened up.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, why didn't you apply for it? Like you're overqualified for it. That's an easy promotion for you, blah blah blah." And I was like, "But that job, like the job is whack. I would not be happy in that job at all. There's
Yes.
no intrigue. It's not gonna challenge my brain." But he was like, "Man, like that's a promotion, so you can promote and get to the place where you can start making changes. But I'm miserable all day."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so people are dumbfounded that I did not apply for a sure shot job, and this promotion would have been nice. But
Yeah.
it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you have to be willing to be true to you.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, I could go get the job and make more money, but my brain
Mm-hmm.
always thinks big picture. I go get the
Mm-hmm.
job, I make more money, right? What am I gonna
Mm-hmm.
do? Probably buy more gadgets. But more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, I'm not looking forward to coming to work. Then I have people working for me. I'm not developing them,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not creating an environment that supports innovation and
Right,
thinking.
right.
And so now I'm affecting other people all
Mm-hmm.
because I'm chasing this promotion. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm good. Like sometimes in life, you have to be willing to say, let's bring it back to relationships. Man, she
Mm-hmm.
is bad. She is fine as all get out. But that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Her heart and we're not compatible. Our vision, our purpose isn't aligned. They don't complement. And
Right.
sometimes you gotta walk away. What do you call it? The something in the fingertips?
Oh, the hips and the fingertips.
Hips and the sometimes you gotta walk away from the hips and the fingertips. And that's not
Yeah.
always easy, right? But
Yeah.
I think when you recognize how invaluable you are,
Yeah.
it is absolutely paramount that everybody that God gives life pursue the purpose that God put into them, because you are the
Absolutely.
only one ever in the history of the world that can do what, because God doesn't duplicate purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are
And
all
so, and,
given
and
specific
so it's so
purpose.
important, for us to, like you said, bringing it back to relationships. My challenge would be to those of you who are listening, to those of you who are in the chat and live with us, and especially to those who will watch this later, to challenge yourself about your norms. What is your norm? Is your norm positive? Where did that come from? Is your norm negative? Where did that come from? Right? So is there a trauma there? Was there, good positive energy there? And so if it's whichever one it is, if it's positive, you don't want to necessarily go overboard, but you don't want to lower your standard for it being a positive normal,
Right.
right? Because that was good nurturement. You were nurtured in relationships. You were loved on, and you were
Right.
provided good structure. You just got to know the person that you deal with in a relationship and understand what their norm is. Because while yours may be a positive norm, theirs may be a negative norm, and you need to understand that negative norm. Sometimes we can integrate and we can help a person with a negative norm become more positive or a little bit
Yes.
more optimistic. And then sometimes we end up succumbing to the
Mhm.
things of the negative. It just depends on where we are in our relationships. But I would encourage you to challenge yourself to just think about where your relationships are. Your relationship may be fine. And this is not just marriages and dating. These are friendships. Because
Friendships.
friendships, even professional relationships. You have to be careful about relationships and who you get close to. And I run into a lot of people in the corporate arena, in the business arena, that kind of thing. And everybody ain't, they ain't coming at you for the right reason. People
That's
have agendas. And so you have to seek that out, and you have to have a discernment. You have to have that sixth sense so that you can pick up on those kinds of things. So all of our relationships have norms to some degree, whatever they are. And then we
absolutely.
have to determine what has caused us. Um, was it something traumatic, or was it something positive that led us down our path? And so sometimes we are overly positive and we have that same expectation, which with anybody else, it's a misguided expectation, because you
Mhm.
cannot expect someone else to give you what you had or operate the way that you were, taught, or you were, the culture you came up in. You can't expect that that's what they had.
Right.
And so for me, underlying, I had that same expectation that the way my parents had reared me, taught me, so forth, so on, the relationships we had, the connections we had, the closeness we had was the same thing that my spouse at the time had. And it wasn't. The communication wasn't the same. There are a whole lot of things about his structure that was different from mine, right?
Right.
And so it took time for me to actually learn and figure out that was we were just on totally two different streets when it came to that. So and I think some of it was that, I know certainly, he admired my dad and the fact that, I had that structure. He was there, he was embracing and that kind of thing. But then it's also another thing, and it's the different for a man when you don't have that and you miss it, and then you come into an atmosphere where that exists. So it's
Right.
like, how do I handle this? How do I receive this? Right? Can I trust this? Because I ain't had this. So there are a whole lot
It's
of things. And
man.
so as women, we have to give men time to find themselves in those situations.
So again, that's like a decision you have to make, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I willing to deal with this? And so e- everything comes down to choice. And simultaneously, you have to be looking at yourself and recognize the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, my siblings and I have made pacts. Like, like this is when we have kids, this like I'll put it out. I've never met any aunts or uncles for real like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never. And I make regular trips as often as I can to Houston to see my nieces and my nephew because,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they gonna know me and I'm the fun uncle. Like I'm the cool uncle. I already know this. So I hope my brothers are watching this. Like, like I'm the guy like, yeah, Uncle Jay is coming. Like they already know when I'm coming, turn up,
Turn up
right?
time.
Look, they came here for Christmas. My brother, his wife came up. My sister was here. And it was like, I was like, look, the minute y'all walk through this door, rules are out the window. There is no bedtime, right? What is bedtime? Right. And so you have to sometimes, man, you have to really look at your life and be able to
Yeah.
recognize some of those
Mm-hmm.
shortcomings. And
Mm-hmm.
you start dating somebody, you get married, they'll show you some other things you don't even recognize. One of the greatest
Absolutely.
things, one of the greatest things I learned from my ex, right? I'm very, I'm very strong spiritually, like, my faith, been saved a long time, always seeking God, always reading, learning.
Mm-hmm.
What I learned from that relationship was that I projected my convictions onto
Mm-hmm.
her.
Mm-hmm.
God is dealing with everybody at different places and different
Absolutely. Different times. That's right.
paces. So
Mm-hmm.
where they are and how fast, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can't take what
I like that. Places and spaces.
If God said, Jamal, you can't do that. If I get conviction from the Holy Spirit, that's for me.
Right. That
That
ain't for
ain't for
nobody else.
her.
Right.
Because
Right.
God working on her with something else.
Yeah,
But
you get you together.
right, in my a lot younger then, I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't see. I was like, yo, this is like I got this revelation, like, yo, this is it. Like it's supported by the word. I go through the filter. Does the word support it? And I'm like, yo, we got this is what it is. It's like, hold up, bro. Who do you think you are?
Right.
Okay, you got a little whisper from God, but you got a whole lot of other stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. And that
But
whisper was for you. That's why it was a whisper.
exactly, right? And so, like, I would project, and a lot of times it's not wrong, right?
Right. To share it. It's okay to share
But
it.
but it's for you.
It's for you.
You can't bring everybody to court off of
Right.
what God convicted you on,
Right.
right? And so
Absolutely.
that was a major lesson. And I always say
Mm-hmm.
it's in the book somewhere. I
Yeah.
thank her so much because after conversations, it hit me like when that thing hit me, I was like, oh my God. Like
Mm-hmm.
imagine how many of us are walking around projecting,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And I
Instead
call
of
that
listening.
sometimes being deep in shallow water because we're deep for
Hmm.
us, but you can't be
Yeah,
deep for other people.
you can't.
So, it's you have to understand that certain things God is trying to wake you up. He's trying, and as a man and as a leader of a home or relationship, he's gonna always say some things to you that he ain't gonna say to the wife
Right.
because you have a different level of responsibility.
100%.
It's just that as women, we have to have our ears open and listen for the nurturing. And you gotta know the difference in nagging and nurturing. A man has to know the difference in nagging and nurturing. When is she nagging me and when is she trying to nurture me?
Right.
Because if you've never been nurtured, you don't know when a woman is really trying to nurture you.
That's true.
So if she's trying to help you, care for you, and those kinds of things. And when she's saying, did you take your vitamins today? Have you eaten today? Da 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 da. That's not nagging. That's a woman being concerned about your well-being. That's nurturing.
So I
And
think
so, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, just for me, like there should be a sign that I'm trying to nurture you. Kiss my neck.
No,
Like
no, no,
if
no,
it's
no, no,
just
no.
kiss my
It ain't
neck
gonna
before you
always
say
be
it.
that. No,
I
sir.
know, I'm just
It ain't gonna always be that.
blow me a kiss. Why?
That's why you have see, here's the thing. This is the whole thing of a wife. She's already one. So if these kinds of things are occurring and she's doing these kinds of things in the dating season, this is why I say it's the things you need to watch rather than talk about. The things you need to observe, right? So if this lady is if this woman is, handling herself in a way that it
Mm-hmm.
is nurturing, right? These are things a caring woman would do for a husband.
Yep.
Then you barked on some good territory.
Yep.
But if it's
mhm.
all about her and it's self-centered and it's spoiled to the fact that it's just one-sided, then that may be a problem. Because if you sick, she ain't gonna know
Yeah.
it. You understand?
And that's a
It,
problem.
you
And
know,
y'all know
and
when
if
we
it,
get sick.
yeah, oh
Oh
Lord.
Lord.
So,
Ah.
so here's the deal.
I
If you're a
call my
person,
mom every time.
so if you're a person that rarely gets sick and that kind of thing, and you snip for 2 days in a row, okay, we need to do. So you got to do a hot toddy, you got to go to bed, you got to get on these blankets, you got to sweat whatever that is out because it's coming up on you. And if you don't want to be sick, then this is what you got to do. And then, so I'm old school, of course. So the young women just they do other stuff. I don't know what they do, but I got all of these little remedies and things that I
Nothing.
do that helps to that helps to nurture a person and get them back, nurture them back, nurses them back to health. The
So like
soup and all that, the home
you
cooking
just
and
said it. So I don't so the younger women, the younger women aren't the generations have changed, right?
Mhm. Oh, sure,
Um,
sure.
but with the change of the generation, again, you get to a certain point when you realize, I want to be better. Go sit at the feet of the older women and learn some of those remedies and
Yeah.
learn some of those customs and learn some of those things, right? Because, and for the men, careful who you choose, of course, but
Mhm.
go sit and learn and ask these questions, right? Like my mentor, God rest his soul, one of the biggest things, it sounds so small, that I took away from him. We were going out, nice place to eat, a little dressed up, had a
Mhm.
little jacket on, a little clean. And he was like, "No, we can't leave yet, man. Go shine your shoes." And I'm
Oh
like,
wow.
bro, shoot, what's considered young? Everybody's young is different, but younger would be like, so I'm 36. So when I say young, I consider like, for me, it's like 20, 25, 24 to 36-ish. I consider that fairly still young, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, but again, there's young age wise, but then there's also the mental
Maturity level. Mhm.
maturity, that piece too, right? So
Mhm.
um there's some couples that are my age that are very strong bonded. They are very intentional about what they do. So I talk to them all the time. And
Mhm.
so I always said, I start dating and engaged and all this stuff. We can't hang out with every married couple,
Mhm.
right? That just it's not gonna happen
Mhm.
because if they not if they're not living in a certain way that I'm like, oh, I aspire to have that, to grow to that. Ain't no point
Yeah.
in me hanging out with y'all,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But yeah, so that would be my definition of young Samira, and that completely threw me off where I was. I was talking about like sitting at the feet, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
just
The
going
tightest
in,
women.
right?
Yeah, yeah, women who are
Well,
seasoned.
learn.
And for me, I was 22 when I started in ministry. I never will forget her. And of course, I had my mom, my great grandmother raised me, so she had passed on. But my mom was a young mom. My mom was a teen mom. She had me at 16. And so when I went into ministry at 22, there was a mother Opal Shaw, and she was tall, fair-skinned lady, jazzy, beautiful spirit. She taught me how to dress. She taught me how to sit in the pulpits. My clothes, I wore the top of the line kinds of suits, all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
because this is how you gonna represent. Because I was the first female minister in my church at that time.
Oh wow.
Young, this was during
Trendsetter.
this was during the time that women was just coming on the scene. Um, it was a super emotional time, even when I accepted the call, because I ran from it. Because my oldest son, I had out of wedlock, and I'm like, surely you ain't talking to me, God. You can't be at telling me I ain't you tell me.
That's who
So
he
I went through
uses.
all of this. This is I went through all of this. And go, hey, little girl, who you talking to? No, I'm talking
Right.
to you. And so I went through this whole thing. But when I tell you, God placed the people in my life that I needed, and I needed that older seasoned mother. And there were several of them. I love the mothers, and they loved me. And we had that relationship, and I gleaned that wisdom. And so oftentimes we don't have that now. And
Yeah.
so when I have the opportunity to be that to someone or be that for someone, I'm always willing to open myself up and to be that mentor because God gave it to me and it was so very needed and it blessed me, it blessed my life. It not, you know, not only that, for my husband, for my children at the time,
Mhm.
because there were things that I was taught to do. You know, it was like there was one mother used to tell me all the time that when your husband get home, you get them count. She didn't call candles. She said you get them candles. And you light them candles, put them candles all around that tub and make sure that bath water hot when he first come in. By the
See, I like
time he get,
her.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She now listen, there was, oh my God, just thinking about it just brings
I
up
like
emotion.
her.
But these were the kinds of women that poured
Yeah.
into me, you know. And we would go and just sit at their feet and just listen to them talk and share, you know. And they would still don't never stop holding hands, don't never
Yeah.
stop holding hands, you know. So I'm in, you know, I'm down south, so I was in
Yeah.
Tennessee at the time. But those kinds of things, you'll never stop holding hands, you'll never stop dating, you know, all of these kinds of things. And so it was enriching, right? And
Mm.
it made a difference in, you know, who I was, and I gleaned from that because I had that. However, you know, there were some pieces and parts of that here again that my mate hadn't had.
Yeah.
So there were certain things that he drew from that. Now appreciates all of it because as
Right.
you learn
Yeah.
better, you do better, and as you mature.
Yeah.
And so we talk about these things even now. And there's still good conversations because
Mm.
we learn so much from these people who poured into us. So find you somebody, man, woman,
So
find you somebody that you can,
let me,
like, you know, Jamal said, sit at their feet.
Miss Moody, like my mentor changed my whole life, but I'm different, right? So I won't waiting for nobody to be like, I see something in you,
Uh-huh.
right? I was scoping out these people for a minute in my church, right? Because I'm always watching, and it's like some guys are cool, but the thing that I gotta give it to my mentor, like this dude has so much swag, it was unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so he's an older dude, but he don't look old.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like suit,
Absolutely.
listen, suit tailored, you know what I'm saying? Always clean, you know, he had the brown eyes and stuff. So the ladies are like, oh my gosh. And he just be like, God bless you. You know what I mean? Like hit him with some Bible, like smooth guy, just
Mhm,
loving, always pouring out, always. But at the same time, he will check you in a heartbeat. And I'm like, oh
mhm,
my gosh, is this older me?
mhm.
Like, what does the word say?
No nonsense.
No nonsense. But at the same
Absolutely.
time, he'll roll on the floor and play with a kid, right? And
Yep,
so
absolutely.
for me, I was sitting there like, okay, he's old, but he fly. Keep it fly. Okay, let me go talk to this guy, right? And from there, it's
Mhm,
just like the countless things that I've learned, right? And the one
mhm,
thing that I love is he never tried to change me
mhm.
because I am a very I'm a lot to deal with.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah.
honest with you. You can talk to my mom. You met my
Mhm.
mom, right? I'm a whole lot. I'm pretty sure I was my mom's problem child. Like everything was because of me. I was always planning something diabolical. And
Mhm,
so, like, this guy was like, you are made the way you are for a reason. I question
mhm,
everything. If what you
mhm,
say don't make sense, I don't care. Even when I was a kid and I got beat a lot for this, I'd be like, what you said was stupid because none of that made sense. And it's like, whoa, in the islands, that's a death sentence. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
Oh
I
God.
used to take it because I'm like, yo, this person is not making any sense to me. I
Mhm.
always ask why. And so
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. God uses everything,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
God made you the way you are for a reason. And I love that about him. Like he saw the good in people. He'll challenge you
Mhm.
to do better, right?
Yeah,
Because he got on my case a lot. But when you build that relationship, when somebody is investing in you because they see
yeah,
something in you,
yeah, yeah,
you feel seen,
yeah.
appreciated. And it wasn't
Absolutely.
like him just telling me you need to do this or you don't need to do this, right? It was a conversation because
Mhm,
sometimes I'd be like, bro, you lost me. I'm not feeling anything you're saying right now. Make that
mhm.
make sense. And we
Yeah.
go back and forth. And sometimes we didn't agree. Sometimes we did.
So
Right. Like
what was it about his relationship that caught your attention, or what did you observe? And how he handled.
So for one of the major things that I realized is that when there is a question, right, about the word of God, he's getting, hey, Rev Ron, can I talk to you real quick? People will come to him for that. Right. And I felt like this guy is, in my head, I kept thinking rabbi, right? Do you go to the rabbi? Because when you're dealing with something, right? When you're dealing with something spiritual, like life-changing, and when you're really trying to get out, you go to somebody that you feel have a close, like they speak to God and God does it.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I saw that, I was like, man, this guy's different. This guy is different. But he wasn't like lame different. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
He wasn't wearing Birkenstocks and a robe. You know what I'm saying? Like the guy was fresh. He was alive. He would make jokes.
His spirit.
Just, right.
Yeah.
And he was alive. Like a lot of times you see people, when we say older people, they look old. You know what I mean? They look like, they've been marching around the wilderness for 40 years. Like, he enjoyed life. Like he lived. We went on so many road trips and we were always eating food. And he paid for most of the food because I was broke. And like, he just sold into me, like real life conversations. Right. And so when we're talking about finding a mentor, it's not for mentor's sake. It's somebody that can challenge you and push you.
Yeah.
But when you mess up, will hold you
accountable.
Right. Look, I'm gonna put it out there, y'all. Ooh, it's Moody. I'm putting it out there. Many years ago, when my ex and I broke up, right? Because he knew both of us. Your boy was struggling. I was, I was like, oh God, what is happening? Right. And he was like, hey man, let's go out. I was like, I don't want to, I was literally under the blanket, like, I'm good, man. Pulled up to my apartment. We got in the car. We're driving, or we're just talking. Right. He's like, I've been there. I know what you're feeling. Take your time, but you're going to get up out of this. Trust me. Blah. And I'm sitting there like, you ain't been through this. You're a pretty boy.
This is hard.
You know what I'm saying? You're a pretty boy. You know what I'm saying? You're doing well financially. You the man. Like, you probably had girls shopping on you. By the end of that ride and the food and everything, I was laughing. And it didn't stop there. He consistently was like, hey,
challenged
man,
you.
I know, because I saw her on a regular basis. So I would always be like, yo, this is crazy that I'm good. And I'm seeing this person. And it's not like it wasn't a crazy breakup or anything, but it's just when you have that attachment, that emotional attachment, all of that. And like he literally walked with me through, and it wasn't some, God has greater for you. Like it wasn't none of that. It was like, bro, this is life.
Practical.
Right.
That's it. Practical application.
Just real. He was like, it's gonna hurt more.
That's
because she's fine. Like it's funny. Like he's always funny, just practical. And so that's what you gotta look for.
Absolutely.
And it's funny, what you look for in a mentor is probably the same thing you need to look for in a mate, right? In a spouse, because you need somebody to push you. You need somebody to grab you when you're down. And so to teach you, right? Like I learned a lot from my ex and my friends. I'm always trying to learn. I wasn't always very expressive or emotional because that wasn't in me. So I had to learn that.
Right.
But I had to first recognize like, yo, like you don't do a very good job of emoting at all. So that was like, I need to intentionally do something about that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are at our time, probably a little bit past our time. And so we thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight, this Friday night. And we hope that something's been said that has stirred your spirit, stirred your mind, started you to thinking, challenged you to think about your norms, your childhood, what was it, was there trauma, and connect those dots, and just think about how you might want to journal it. You might not want to talk about it out loud, but I would encourage you to assess it. It may be all good, but then there may be some things that are happening that you haven't been able to figure out why. But if you'll trace those things, I'll be willing to bet you any kind of money that you'll find some connections. So we hope this has been motivational for you. And here again, it's just conversation, but we hope that the conversation challenged you in some way tonight. All right. So y'all have a good time, good night, and we will see you back here the last Friday of the month. Next Friday, I'm going to be in a conference and stuff, so we won't be hanging next Friday. But the Friday after that, we'll be all right for some
Good night,
more Friday
everybody.
night chat.